Glad to have you on as we introduce ourselves coming into the show. We want to give you a little cranked up music. Got to get my green screen right. I don't mind fixing my green screen in front of you. I still got my back up against the wall, Aaron. My back is against the wall, and we have got nowhere to go except for forward. We've got to go forward. Am I right?
Yes, free and forward. Let's go, Mark.
We've got to go forward. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mark Kennedy. I'm chair of the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus, and we are so happy to have you with us tonight as we stream live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on LinkedIn, live with the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus, live on Facebook with the Louisiana Democratic Small Business Caucus. And we have a fantastic guest for you tonight. We're going to talk about some interesting things. But first of all, I need to introduce you to the hostess, the co-hostess with the mostest. Today on Woke Wednesday, Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Live. Aaron, is that you? Introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Hey. I am Erin Porche, the establishing and interim chair for Louisiana Democratic Small Business Caucus. And I'm just excited to be here on the show with the Mark Kennedy.
Yes. Oh, we're so happy to be here with you, Erin. I love the South. I love Louisiana. You know, my family's from New Orleans. I'm working out of Virginia, but those roots go back to New Orleans. So it's always good to talk to somebody from Baton Rouge and New Orleans and Louisiana. And it is fantastic talking to you folks out there today. Are you Democrats and soon to be Democrats ready? Do you know what it is you have to do today? Do you understand why we are here? We are here to get and maintain our voting rights. And we're here to talk about how we keep those voting rights that we've worked so hard to get through the years. You know, this country is not the same. You can't have a democracy if everybody doesn't get to vote, or if everybody's vote is not available to them. And one of the things that we're working very diligently to make sure happens is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. They call it HR 4, and making sure that you're out there supporting, talking to your congressmen, talking to your senators, talking to your representatives, congressional representatives, and saying, listen, you need to get behind that Voting Rights Act. And that Voting Rights Act is very important. Let me tell you why it's important, folks. And I'm going to go slow here. It is extremely important that you understand what is actually in the Voting Rights Act. And what's in that Voting Rights Act is, I'm going to give it to you verbatim. And I'm reading too, but you can't see my eyes kind of looking off to the side. Y'all don't watch my eyes, watch my hands, right? I'm telling you, this bill is important. This is HR 4 from the 116th Congress, 2019 to 2020. The bill establishes the new criteria for determining which states and political subdivisions can, I'm sorry, I'm going to start over again, because I knew I was going to blow this, but I'm going to do it again, folks. Stick with me here. Stick with me. This bill establishes a new criteria for determining which states and political subdivisions must obtain pre-clearance. Pre-clearance before changes to any voting practices in their areas take effect. Pre-clearance is a process of receiving pre-approval from the Department of Justice of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia before making any legal changes that would affect voting rights. That was a mouthful, but that is verbatim off of what the bill says at the beginning. And specifically to sort of give you more information about this, it will modernize the Voting Rights Act formula for determining discrimination in states and localities. It will also you have to declare any changes to voting rules at least 180 days before an election. You have got to state what those changes are. That allows the government to have the authority to send federal observers to monitor jurisdictions for potential risk of discrimination at the polls during voting. But more importantly is with pre-clearance, we basically are working to make sure that we're making sure that people don't go around messing with voting rights, because your voting rights are fundamental. We can't move anywhere as an organization or as a democracy unless all people who are eligible to vote are able to vote unobstructed in any way by any federal or any state or local interference. And that's really what this John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is all about. So I really wish we could take some questions here, because I'm just going to stop here for a second. And Aaron, before we move on to talk about the HR 1, we're talking about HR 4, but I want to just talk to you a little bit about how important this is and what it is that we need to make sure people out there understand, that our voting rights are fundamental, in the sense that if we can't elect the people who represent us, then as small businesses, we can't protect our small businesses. We can't protect our families or anything else that we need to do. It is far more important that we maintain our voting rights and the ability to have free, fair, and unabridged elections without any federal or state or local interference. It's extremely important. And when we have our guests that come on, our guests will basically be able to talk a little bit about this, although they're going to talk about some other things. We like to mix it up a little bit here, but this is fundamental. You must have the right to vote. Aaron, I want you to bring yourself into the stream. Just want to hear a little bit about how you feel about voting rights, and see if you can explain it in your voice and from your perspective, why voting rights are so important and why that's the number one thing that we need to make sure that we maintain before we can move any place else. Because we can't maintain what we have unless we have voting rights. Aaron, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly, Mark. I think that it is imperative that we take action, that we show up, and that we cast our vote. Too many times, people sit on the sidelines and are spectators, and actually feel the impact of the lack of voting. And truly, we have more power when we show up and cast our vote. That puts more weight in our direction for things to basically work in our favor, right? So I just really believe that it's important for us to show up, make some decisive decisions, and cast our vote.
Well, Aaron, we have to show up and show out. I believe we need to do everything we need to do. And this is an opportunity for all those millennials out there and those folks who came after those baby boomers, Gen Xers, and everyone else. You want to know what it was like during the civil rights period, what your elders did and what your grandparents did to make sure we had these voting rights acts during the civil rights movement. They showed up and showed out. And if they couldn't do nothing, they would just sit in the way. But I tell you one thing, we need to get out there. We need to make sure we maintain these rights, because they've never been affected by this. And 2021 is important, because as we look at 2022 and we don't do what we need to do in 2021, you're going to have a Congress that doesn't have Democrats in control. You're going to have a House and a Senate that don't have Democrats in control. And trust me, that's not going to be good. We will still have a Democratic president, but what we need to have is a Democratic president, a Democratic House of Representatives, and a Democratic Senate. And we need to maintain that as we roll into 2024 and maintain the second general election, federal general election for electing the president of the United States again. And he needs to make sure that he can sign bills that we send from the House and from the Senate to him. And that's our job as Democrats, to elect more Democrats. And our job as small business caucus Democrats to make sure that we prosper, everybody prospers, while everybody gets an opportunity. And in a democracy, the only way you get an opportunity is if you can vote. If you can't vote, you ain't got no opportunity. None.
And you know what, Mark? The other component is I believe that it's important that we educate, right? That we talk about these different acts and just share the different bills that are trying to, that are going forward and things of that nature, so that people understand, the meaning behind it, the impacts of these different things that are going forward and that we are voting on. The
Absolutely.
education component, I believe, is more vitally important for people like me and you, people in these caucuses, and able to use our voice and share information, break it down so that people get it and can make a decision. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
It's important to have those voting rights. Aaron, let me go ahead and move to the second thing that I would like to talk to people about before I give them our call to action for today. And the second item that I would like to talk about is going to be, now that we've talked about HR 4, we got to find a way to bring our audience into this so we can start seeing their comments. We really want to talk about HR 1 because HR 1 is important. And it really kind of lays things out there with HR 1 so people understand what is the difference in these voting bills that are out there. HR 1, 4, remember, was a John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And basically, it was out there to make sure that people have the right to vote. Now, let's talk about HR 1 and how it is the For the People Act for the For the People Act of 2021. I'm stumbling over my words, but y'all understand what I'm saying. And I'm going to read this verbatim too, as it has it off the bill. This is to expand Americans' access to the ballot box, reduce the influence of big companies in politics, strengthen the ethics rules for public servants, and implement other anti-corruption measures for the purpose of fortifying our democracy and for other purposes. This bill, which has been passed through the House and will be sent to the Senate next, is a massive effort to do the following: to expand access to voting, automatic and same-day voter registration nationwide, 2 weeks of early voting, banning all the purging of voter rolls, restores the full protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which was decimated by the Supreme Court in 2013. Finance reforms like banning foreign money loopholes, election security, independent commissions for preventing gerrymandering, grants to help states replace aged and old and ineffective voting machines, and a process for auditing and securing election results. Now, who in the world wouldn't want that? Between the John Lewis Act and For the People Act, we have completely updated our right to vote, and we have secured them in stone so that people have the right to vote. And the call to action for everyone out there today that hears this or hears this on a rebroadcast is: call your congressman. I don't care if he's already on board. Call him anyway and tell him, I am for the Voting Rights Act. I am for the John Lewis Act. I want to make sure that all these good things that we've talked about actually come to pass. And people need to make sure that they have the ability to vote and that they're telling their congressmen whether or not the congressman, because this is really American. This isn't really Democrat or Republican, but the right to vote is an American, not party affiliated per se, but an American right that's guaranteed us in the Constitution of the United States. And we need to make sure that we're out there supporting legislation that makes sure that those freedoms stay in place. Because if you don't have the right to vote, then all the other things don't count. So the call to action for today is what, Aaron? What's our call to action for today? What is that we want people to do?
We want people to call their congressman.
Yes.
We want them to exercise their right to vote. Just that simple.
And next week, we're going to show you some great tools that are out there that allow you to call your congressman and to call him at least once a week. Just say, hey, it's Monday morning, or better yet, say it's a Woke Wednesday. It's a VADSBC show. And Aaron and Mark said, I need to get on this tool and call my congressman and let him know that we are for the we're for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and that we're for the People Act of 2021, because that is a comprehensive package between both of those things that allow Americans of all stripe. I don't care who you vote for. Well, I do care who you vote for. I don't care what you do, and I don't care who you vote for, even though I want you to vote Democrat, but I do care that you do have the ability to cast your right to vote, and that right is protected regardless of where you sit on either side of the fence or no fence at all. If you're an American, you're of age, you need to have an unabridged right to vote. Call your congressman.
That's right. And our elections begin in 20 days.
Yeah.
It's 2 days before general elections. It starts on November 2nd of 2021. So that's a key date.
Okay, okay, well, I think we have some interesting things that are out there. When we start talking about that, we got some things, little things. Oh, God, Aaron, guess what? I'm looking at these runners across the bottom of the screen, and it says, see who's on the ballot. Viewing your candidates, it tells you where you can vote in Virginia. But that's a perfect segue, because let's talk a little bit about Virginia politics, okay? I want to just make sure that people understand that they need to be registered to vote. And to be registered to vote in Virginia is really what Aaron is talking about when you see the ticker tape across the bottom. Question first is, are you registered to vote? You need to get registered, and you can start to vote in general elections 22 days before the election. Is that right? Is that what you're telling us across there? And that URL that's down there tells people what they do, where they need to go to get more information, either how to register, all the information on who's actually out there to vote for. But we'll tell you who it is who's on the ballot. November 2nd, I'll get this right, Aaron. November 2nd, 2021 is the Virginia general election. And we've got some great candidates out there. We've got Governor Terry McAuliffe, or former Governor Terry McAuliffe. Terry was he was a former at a lot of different things, but he's had a fantastic career. And one of the things that he's done again is he's won the primary in Virginia. So get out there and support Terry McAuliffe as he runs for governor. We also have, for the first time as a lieutenant governor running, is Hala Ayala, and she's running for lieutenant governor. And this is the first time I think we've had a woman who's a Latino who's actually running in Virginia for lieutenant governor. I mean, that deserves a round of applause. You know, in Virginia, we get it done. We give everybody opportunities, and a lot of people are coming to the forefront in order to make that happen. And she's one of the people we have. Also, you have Mark Herring, who's running for Attorney General. And let's give a big up and hands for Mark. Mark has been getting it done for a number of years as Attorney General, and he just wants to stay in the fight because here he is running again. So listen, you can't go wrong as Democrats unless you don't register to vote, because if you don't register to vote, you can't vote. But if you do register to vote, which we want you to do, read that ticker tape along the bottom there. It tells you exactly about the dates and how do you register to vote, and when are the dates that I need to meet in order to do all the things concerned with voting in the upcoming election, November 2nd, 2021. And that's a fantastic thing. It really is. I'm excited because we get it done here in Virginia. And we want to maintain not just the statewide candidates, but you also have folks who are running in the House of Delegates. And in the House of Delegates, you've got a lot of those people who are actually online, who are up to for re-election, Democrats who are in the House of Delegates. You want to get out there and support them as well in any local elections. So when you get out there, I've got one more call to action for you when it's time to vote. I want you to go in there, open up those things, close the curtain. It really is no curtain. They're kind of in a box most of the time. I haven't seen those curtains in a long time. Have you seen any curtains? Aaron, have you seen curtains when you go to vote?
We still have curtains down south.
Oh, got curtains in Louisiana?
Yes.
We got no curtains here in Virginia. We got cardboard boxes with flags on them. But anyway, when you go to cubicles.
That could be a model that we can, transition.
Okay. Maybe if they pass the stuff we're talking about, maybe we'll get some curtains and we'll update ourselves here in Virginia, at least in Northern Virginia where I am. We got a cardboard box with flags on them. So, but I'm not complaining. I get in there and do my thing. But what I want you to do is go in there when they give you your ballot and just hit all those D's all the way down. Don't stop at governor. Don't stop till you get down to dog catcher if he's running. All Democrats, elect them all, school board, House of Delegates, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and anybody else who's running locally in your area. Because we need to make sure that we keep the Democrats taking care of business here in Virginia so we can keep doing all those fantastic progressive things that are happening in Virginia. This ain't the Virginia that your daddy grew up in. Your daddy has basically said, hey, Virginia has got a new look, a new swag to it. And we're getting it done here in Virginia. And I know y'all getting it done in Louisiana too, because I've been down to New Orleans. That's where I told you my family's from. Aaron, tell them what you talk to them a little bit. You know, I can go on and on. Talk to the people.
Mark, listen, I think these people have been ignited to go and vote. I think you will.
Okay. I'm going to keep pressing them. I'm going to keep pushing them.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I stepped on your words. Please say it again.
No. All I'm saying is that I think at this stage, we heard you loud and clear that we need to exercise our right to vote, reach out to our congressman, get an understanding of HR 4 and the HR 1 and
congressman and call your congresswoman.
Yeah, and I think that we can continue this conversation, you know, every week, from week to week. Keep reminding them.
Keep talking about it and telling people how they can vote and get it done in Virginia, right?
Exactly.
I love Virginia. I love Virginia, and I love Louisiana, and I love getting it done and making sure that we're doing what we need to do. Because, you know, when you get stuff done and you see the improvement that happens in people's lives because the right people have come out and fought for the things they need to fight for. As a small business person myself and as chair of the Small Business Caucus, there are opportunities out there, massive opportunities that exist for folks of every stripe. And we want to make sure that the Democrats keep all those opportunities open and even open up even more opportunities as a Small Business Caucus, which kind of makes me end this part of our current talk, which is with the call to action. And the call to action is please call your congressman and tell them I support HR 1 and HR 4, the John Lewis Act and the For the People Act. And also that I'm getting out there and I'm registered to vote and I'm ready to vote in Virginia to cover everyone who's running for office up and down the ticket. And now, since I've talked so much, we're going to go into the special part of our VADSBC Live. That's a Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show live. And we're going to bring someone on who, you know what? This gentleman I met a few years ago. And he is a very interesting person because I didn't know anything about cryptocurrencies or anything else. And I'm so glad I met him. And through the years, I've continued to talk with him. And I want to take the time to introduce folks to Paul McNeal, who is the owner of the Crypto Curator. And he is going to talk to us today a little bit about what small businesses ought to know about cryptocurrencies and what it is that he does. We're not giving you any financial advice, but without further ado, but I want to just give him all of his roses and all of his flowers. I'm going to read what I've written here because I've taken the time to have someone else make sure it's written correctly for me to read. Paul McNeal, he's the owner of the Crypto Curator. He's going to be he's a speaker. He's a brand evangelist. He's a technologist. Paul has spent over 10 years in the United States Navy submarines force working in communications. Afterwards, he held leadership positions with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, and he was also an early adopter of Bitcoin, which people probably said, we've heard of that, but that is actually a type of cryptocurrency. And he continues to monitor the developments of blockchain technology daily at the Crypto Curator. And he also has a Crypto Curator blog. So without further ado, bring him on board. And let's get a big, big round of applause for Paul McNeal. All right, Paul, we're glad to have you.
Hey, glad to be here.
Mike.
Welcome, Paul. Welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you both for giving me this opportunity to give a few ideas to some folks.
Fantastic.
Yep. So my name is Paul McNeal. I am the Crypto Curator. I've been aware of Bitcoin since 2011. But like most folks, you hear about this stuff and you're just not too sure about it. So, you have to spend a little time figuring it out. And I did. And then after I did that, I read the white paper. We call it going down the rabbit hole. So I went down the rabbit hole. And after I did that, I was like, I think there's something behind this. And of course, as everybody always say, once you go down a rabbit hole, it's all over, and you'll be doing this all day long.
That's right.
Yeah. So when it comes to digital assets, and I'll use that as a full description of what we're talking about, small business owners really need to tune in. And the reason for that is one, for your business, but also for you personally. When you look at digital assets, everybody knows right now we're printing trillions of dollars, right? And if you have any financial acumen about yourself, the more dollars they print, the less buying power your dollar have. So used to be, we could put that money somewhere like gold, and that money would hold its value. We would look at gold as a store of value, and that's where people would put it. But gold is not really performing that great either right now. And
Really?
if you look at, gold's not performing that great. If you look at gold, or if you look at real estate, now real estate's going up like crazy. If you're if you're a seller, it could be a good time for you. But if you're a buyer, it's a horrible time. Equities are running up. Bonds are paying you nothing, right? There, you can't get a bond for anything. Where you gonna put a savings account? You're not gonna get any money there. Right. So if you look at here in Virginia, there's a company called MicroStrategy, run by Michael Saylor, billion-dollar corporation, publicly traded on Wall Street. He had a problem. His problem was he had $500 million in cash that he had nothing to do with. He had nowhere to put it. He couldn't find a place to put it where it would keep it safe until he came across Bitcoin. And that's the key that everybody needs to understand. Since he's found Bitcoin, he's gone on to raise more debt capital to put more money at Bitcoin. And he's currently getting ready to raise another $1 billion. Now, I tell people, if you see someone doing something like this, either one, they're absolutely crazy and out of their minds, or they know exactly what's going on, right?
Well,
and so,
Paul, let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what Bitcoin is, or they know what Bitcoin is because they hear that term. But the term cryptocurrency and blockchain, if a small business person is interested in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies, what would you tell them about that? How would you explain it to them in just brief terms so they can say, well, I don't go down the rabbit hole, but I've listened to what Paul has said as a small business person, and I have a basic understanding, or a beginning of a basic understanding, of what blockchain and cryptocurrencies are.
Good. So 3 things to that. The first thing, this is why I tell everybody on my Twitter account, you can go see it's a pinned tweet. If I can get you to read what I read, watch what I watch, and listen to what I listen to, you're going to know exactly what to do. So that aside, let's look at Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? It's a digital asset. And so where did it come from? There is a fictitious person named Satoshi Nakamoto who wrote up a white paper. And this was back in 2008. And he clearly outlined what this was. It's a peer-to-peer electronic currency. That's what it was designed to be. So if you go read the white paper, that's what it says. It's to get rid of the intermediaries in the financial system. If I want to send Mark money, how am I going to send you money, Mark? I can send it through the bank, as a wire, as an ACH. All of a sudden, we've got new fintech tools like Venmo and PayPal, right? Mm-hmm. But that means I'm going to send it through that third party to get to you.
Okay.
Now with Bitcoin, I can send money straight to you. I can send money straight to you through this screen right now. You could hold up your phone with a QR code on it. I can scan the screen and I can zap money from me to you just like that. No middleman.
Hey, Paul, I'm just going to say one thing just so everybody understands. I'm moving the mic real close and say, this is not an endorsement of cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or any other type of thing by the Democratic Party. We simply have a guest on who knows something about it and is going to tell us small business people what it actually is, because we're too busy trying to keep the lights on. That we can find a way to help us make money and invest, we want to do it. So, Paul, I've given you the disclaimer. Go ahead and go.
And that's a great disclaimer, Mark. And I'll tell you why. Listen, no one should take any action based off of what one individual says. If you do, you probably need to go have the head checked, because and that's me included. Listen, I can tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but you need to check it out for yourself, people. Do your own research. Do not listen to anybody to give up your hard-earned money to something that someone's told you about that you just heard on a whim. That's not smart. It's not smart.
No, it isn't.
So with that disclaimer, so that's one of the things that Bitcoin can do. Now, the blockchain, people like to try to separate the two. You hear people say, we don't like that Bitcoin stuff, but we like blockchain. Well, if you look at the white paper, it says what? The blockchain is nothing more than chain of blocks. And in these blocks are transactions. And it becomes a ledger. The great thing about this ledger is that this ledger is public. Everyone can see it and is distributed. It's on a lot of computers globally. So you can't shut it down, and it's complete transparency for the most part. It's pseudonymous, not anonymous. People think Bitcoin's anonymous. It's not anonymous. It's pseudonymous, which means I can see every transaction. I just don't know who's doing the transaction until they tie their name to a transaction. Now I know that's who it is. Okay. Now, how can,
No, go ahead. No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
So the question becomes, how can this help small businesses, right? That's what the crux of this matter.
Absolutely.
The way it helps small businesses is that, again, if you happen to be a fortunate business that have capital that's just sitting somewhere in a bank account, or sitting somewhere not earning you any interest, not doing any work for you. And like I say, you're fortunate enough, like Michael Saylor in Tyson's Corner, to have a company that has $500 million just sitting on the side. Then this is something you could put it in. There's a gentleman by the name of Mark Yusko. See, Mark's a brilliant people, whoever Mark's are.
Yusko.
Yeah, Mark Yusko.
Okay.
So Mark Yusko has a company, and it's called Morgan Creek. But he said, Bitcoin is the best savings technology on the planet, right?
Wow.
It's the best savings technology on the planet because it's highly secure, which is the blockchain, and it's a digital asset, which is increasing in value year over year. As a matter of fact, since inception to today, Bitcoin has increased over 99,000%. That's not a misstatement. 99,000%. It went from $0 to currently today, it just hit $40,000
for one Bitcoin.
For one Bitcoin. Now, this is over the past 12 years.
Right.
So what small businesses need to understand is, again, and this goes for you as a small business, the entity, but as a small business owner, you should be saving money somewhere. Let's just hypothetically say you have that emergency fund, which it should be 3 to 6 months worth of income, yada yada. That money sitting in a bank account earning you what right now? What are you guys getting in your bank accounts? 0%? Nothing. Right. They're not paying anything. Right. So you could take that money, put it into another digital asset called a stable coin. You probably heard a lot about stable coins, which is like a USDC. And that, if you put it on certain platforms, they'll pay you 9% on that. Right.
Wow.
So instead of saying 9%.
Well, that's a pretty good return.
Yeah. So instead of setting your money in a bank account earning 0, you can turn that US dollar, what we call fiat money, into a digital asset, USDC, and it will earn you 9%. So, and that's without taking any risk. That's very liquidable. If you put it in today and you decide I need that money tomorrow, you can pull it right back out. There's not a lot of waiting.
Now, there's another thing, Paul, that I heard that was out there for people who are doing startups, who are actually starting their own I guess, a introduction of a cryptocurrency offering in order to raise capital for their companies for whatever type of business they're trying to get into. That seems to be a lot that I see out there from a small business perspective. And I don't know whether you're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I wanted to throw that out to maybe you might be able to touch on that a little bit too.
Sure. So when it comes to trying to use digital assets to raise capital for your business, you need to be extremely careful. And I highly recommend you talk with the SEC and the regulators before launching any type of project like this, because a lot of people, and this was back in what we call the ICO boom phase, where these companies were writing up white papers and raising money and taking off with the money. The regulators put a stop to that. So today, if you want to do it, you probably can do an actual offering, but you need to go through the regulators, SEC primarily, to do this. Now, it depends on the type of business you have. This is not for everybody to use. You can't just go out raising money on a whim and think you're going to raise millions of dollars doing this. If you have a viable project and the token that you create actually has a utility to it, then you could use a digital asset to possibly raise money for your business. But again, I encourage people, do not casually go into that without some legal assistance, without regulators understanding what you're doing before you decide to do it.
So the difference between people who are out there trying to raise capital using cryptocurrencies or introducing a cryptocurrency is different from a large company investing money that's just sitting on the sidelines that they want to have invested. Because I kind of look at this, if you're as diversification, since there's so many individuals who are invest in real estate, invest in the market, invest in starting a business, or setting their money in the bank. So you don't get caught with one or the other. If you put it all in one thing, you're saying that, and this, of course, I'm saying the disclaimer into the mic, that one of the ways that you're suggesting to a small business is they need to at least look at taking some of their wealth or some of their assets that they have and investing in cryptocurrency of some sort.
Correct, absolutely.
I think that's going to continue to grow like any other investment.
It is. And that's one of the things that I think, and this is why I want people to tune in, because again, I have to impress upon everybody. Listen, you can listen to this. Hopefully my goal is that I'm whetting your appetite enough that you're going to go do some more research on this. But here's what you're going to find. Like I said, Michael Saylor, Tysons Corner, Virginia, held a conference for business leaders globally. Those business leaders attended that conference, and in that conference, he gave them the roadmap on how to use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. And that's what it's called, a treasury reserve asset. So if you're someone who has a business and you have capital that's not being put to work and you want to do something with that invested somewhere, Bitcoin is a tool, potential tool for you to look at after you do your homework, talk to your advisors, talk to everybody you have to, and consider that, because if Bitcoin continues to grow, now here's the kicker. What a lot of people don't understand is that Bitcoin is on a trajectory to grow at least 20% year over year for the foreseeable future, right? Now, what does that mean? That means right now there are projections standing for this year, Bitcoin to go to 318,000. That was cited by Citibank. Now, this is not some fly-by-night organization. This is Citibank, a bank. They came out and said 318. Other people have come out and said 250. There are a lot of projections for Bitcoin. Is it possible for it to happen? It is possible for it to happen, and it might be even probable for it to happen. I believe it was Anthony Scaramucci who said it's a foolish risk not to be off zero to some level. So again, I tell people, you don't have to put everything in a business. You don't have to put your entire reserve asset in, but you should have some exposure to Bitcoin, because if you don't, it's just foolish.
Okay, so, and I know once again, the Democratic Party is not recommending that people, I'm not giving anybody any investment advice, but we are having people who are coming on to our program just to give small business folks and people an understanding of what it is. And one of the things that I saw out there too was, I think it was some weeks ago, China had pulled out of the cryptocurrency market, or said they weren't going to use it for something that was in the news. And I guess, like the news can be, they basically said that kind of cryptocurrency or that market had taken a hit as a result. Explain to small business folks that are out there what happens when nations, or from your perspective, how you understand it, when nations actually decide they want to get involved in one cryptocurrency or the other, and just so people have an idea of how that could affect them and some of the decisions they may or may not make.
Exactly. So what we saw with China, and again, this is what people have to understand. This is not the first time we've heard, and we call it FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You hear that term if you ever get involved in crypto, FUD. And the FUD has been year over year. We always hear something about China banning Bitcoin. China's going to get rid of Bitcoin. But here's the reason why they're trying to do that. China has created their own digital currency. Now, I told people several years back, I said, we're entering what I consider the digitization of everything. Everything's going digital. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you examples. So currency are going digital. Like I said, China has launched what they call the digital yuan. That asset, and they're converting all their money, their fiat paper money, into a digital asset, and they airdropped a bunch of it to their people. So they just gave people free money. They were like, here, take this free money. We want you guys to use it. So they started using it. So they're actively now using a digital currency to do their day-to-day business, pay bills, buy food, go to movies, the whole 9 yards, right? Digital.
Wait a minute, make sure I didn't misunderstand you. You said China is actually using it, even though that they came out against it?
No, they're using theirs. See, they created their own, yes. Now that they create their own, they want to get rid of all the competition. So they're trying to kick Bitcoin out of the country, right?
Well, I want to make sure people caught that.
That's right. That's huge.
So this is not unusual for countries, just like the United States wants to have a strong dollar. Okay, so other countries, when they try to get into this particular type of business with cryptocurrencies, they're always competing against the U.S. dollar or against other U.S. or I guess I don't know whether or not you would call any of the cryptocurrencies for any particular country, but the theory is the same, basically.
Right. Yep.
They want to compete, but China wants one that they control.
That's right. And so China wants to control this whole digital asset space. Right. So they created their own. So they're trying to kick Bitcoin out. So what they do, they told all the miners, you got to go. We want you out of here, right? So now all the miners decided to leave, and they're going everywhere. They're going to Russia. They're coming to the U.S. They're going to South America. So what that does, though, it helps continue to decentralize what's called mining. Now, the average person listening, and like, what the heck is mining? There's where they take these computers that they run on a network that solves a problem that keeps the network secure. And to make it simple for everybody to understand, you can dive into it later. It's just a way to keep the Bitcoin network secure. That's it. So miners keep it safe. They're like security guards, right? So
and people that they have these mining that have all these computers and do this cryptocurrency mining, they actually get paid by they're able to keep some of what it is that they mine by solving these algorithms that keeps the whole thing moving.
That's right. So in order to keep it safe, since they're doing work, and it's called proof of work, since they're doing proof of work on the network rewards them every 10 minutes with Bitcoin. Now, when it first started, it was 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes.
Wow.
And then in 4 years, it went to 25. And that's why we call it the halving. Every 4 years, the reward gets cut in half. Now, if you cut the reward in half, in order for it to keep operating the way it normally operates, the price must double. Because if it doesn't, you're going to be operating at a loss because someone takes 50%. There you go. So every 4 years, we get this doubling effect of the price of Bitcoin. This is what helps the price go up. So now, with the price doubling, these miners are now today getting 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes for keeping the network secure.
Well, there you go. So there's the incentive for those guys.
That's the incentive.
It just sort of feeds on itself. And I guess when you talk about cryptocurrencies,
Yep.
what makes one currency more? So there's like one called Ethereum. There's another one called Bitcoin. There's quite a few of them out there. So just without not promoting one or the other, Paul, what makes one more successful than the other? Is it first to market, or how do you know when you like maybe compare them to stock or something? If I'm a small business person and I decide I'm going to invest in a little bit of cryptocurrency to diversify my company's holdings.
Yep, you can say that. So Bitcoin was the first thing on the scene. That was the first one created. Then after Bitcoin came about, Charlie Lee, who worked for Google at the time, decided to fork, and that's what they call it. There's a term called fork. This, if you think about it, make a copy of something. So he made a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, and he called that one Litecoin. So there was Bitcoin, and then there was Litecoin, which is another digital asset. Well, a young man by the name of Vitalik Buterin came around. He read the white paper, understood what it was all about, and he says, I'm going to create this other platform called Ethereum. And that platform was built to be a smart contract platform. Now, smart contracts is a whole nother gamut of this industry, but the reality is that that has blown up, and there is tons of applications built on Ethereum. Now, to give you some correlation of what Ethereum is, think of the Apple App Store. When it was first created, there were a few apps in there. People could download apps.
Right.
Today, we have millions of apps that you can download from the App Store. Right. Ethereum is the same way. Ethereum first came about. There was a couple of projects got built on it. Now there's a ton. But in the entire digital asset space, Mark and Aaron, there's over 11,000 different digital assets on the market. 11,000.
Wow. 11,000 digital assets.
11,000 different types of assets.
So I guess what Aaron, I want to say something, but I can see that there's something on your face. What is it?
Just like, wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's just like stock in a way, right? How do you know which one should I buy? Now you've got your what do you call it? The various different top 500 or whatever. There must be a top 10, top 20 where people are looking how they're performing and saying, okay, I'm going to take some of this, and some of that. And plus, there's probably out there ETFs that are around these things as well, aren't they? Have they been into the marketplace as ETFs?
That's absolutely true. And I'm telling you, this is why I curate the news every day, because there's so much going on. But you're right. There are a bunch of different assets. There's a website called CoinMarketCap, 11,000 assets, and there is like a top 100, top 10. I tell most people top 10 right now. If I were to look at this website, the top 10 digital assets, the market cap is about $12 billion to get into the top 10. So a $12 billion market cap, you can get into the top 10. But with that being said, how do you pick, right? So this is what I tell most people. Again, you need to go do your homework. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are two great assets. Most financial advisors would advise you to have some exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So those are the two that I tell people, consider those two before you consider everything. As a matter of fact, the guy who created Litecoin, he said you should work to own one Bitcoin before you buy any other asset. Own one Bitcoin.
Paul, I'm taking the time to say the Democratic Party is endorsing none of this. We are just simply listening to information, and we are not encouraging you to put your money into anything without talking to your financial advisor or your accountant, somebody. But whatever you do, don't listen to me, because
that's right.
You listen to what Paul is telling you, who you need to go talk to.
Exactly. And again, this is why, like I said before, this is what I tell everybody. Listen, I do not want people just listening to me. I want you people reading. Listen, there are some great videos out there where people are actually explaining stuff. Some of these people are registered investment advisors. I'll give you a good example. One name that most of you probably recognize, his name is Rick Edelman. Rick Edelman has been a big-time financial advisor from Virginia, right? Rick Edelman from Virginia. Everybody in this area should know who he is. He now has an organization called RIDAC. Registered Investment Advisors Digital Asset Council. It's there to help registered investment advisors understand this so they can then come to you to help you get into digital assets. Please, please, please talk to your advisors. They're getting up to speed on this stuff. Do not just try and take one person's word and go dumping money in. You're crazy if you do it.
Yeah, I got you.
Now,
go ahead.
You mentioned ETFs. ETFs is a big to-do right now. Overseas, they are launching ETFs. In Swiss, they have what's called ETPs. Over in Europe, they have ETNs. Down in South America, they've launched ETFs. Up in Canada, they've launched ETFs. The US.
Let me stop you for a second. I know what an ETF is, but go ahead and tell folks what an ETF is, Paul.
Sure. It's an electronic traded fund, right? It's a fund that holds a basket of assets so that you can take and buy that fund and get exposure to the asset without having to actually buy the asset itself.
Kind of like mutual funds in the stock market, right?
Kind of like a mutual fund with stock.
Well, you can just don't buy all of Exxon or whatever the name may be. Here, buy these top 100 that are all in this fund that professional people are managing. Again, we're not giving advice, but it's basically spreading your risk over many instead of just one. Yeah.
Exactly. And so those ETFs are going to, and not only that, here's another one for you, Mark. Yeah. By having a Bitcoin ETF, it allows people that have retirement money to go into digital assets because now it's a registered investment tool vehicle for people to do that with. Right now, if you have retirement money, it's sort of hard to get into digital assets, except there are companies that allow you to move your retirement account to them. But for an ETF to come out, it's really going to change the game and make it possible for you to go in your E-Trade account and buy the Bitcoin ETF. Right? How easy is that?
Right now, none exists for cryptocurrencies in the US, right?
Only one exists. It's called GBTC. It's Grayscale's. It's not even a fund. It's called a trust. It's a Grayscale Bitcoin trust. And that's the closest thing. But outside of that, we're still waiting on an ETF.
Okay. So as a small business person, I've heard everything that you talked about here. And it sounds interesting to me. So I guess if I go out there in the private sector or government, whatever it is, how I earn my money as a sole proprietor, whatever, you're saying it's a good idea to at least look at this, understand what it is, and get some advice. And for diversification's sake, once you decide that you want to do this, that it probably makes a lot of sense to do so. We're not taking your advice, but if we've done nothing else, we've probably exposed people to a little more about cryptocurrencies and what they may have had knowledge of in the past. Aaron, tell them a little bit about how you feel about what you've heard, being the cryptocurrency expert that you are. Tell them what's happening. Tell me about that Louisiana cryptocurrency.
Mark, I'm not about to talk about anything I don't know anything about, but I am certainly intrigued after hearing Paul's the way that he just broke it down and shared the opportunities. It sounds limitless, and it sounds like it's something that we need to have in our portfolio, really tap into it. So I'm certainly going to do my homework. I can't speak for anybody else, but thank you so much, Paul. I'm certainly going to do my research to just really figure out where those entry points are, and truly the opportunities as a small business owner like myself. So thank you.
Yep. And again, Mark and Aaron, this is again why I do what I do. So again, the website is thecryptocurator.com. Here's the thing that I want people to understand and take away. I'm someone who have been exposed to this since 2011. I have no interest whatsoever to try to scam someone or tell someone something that's not true or put something in front of someone that's going to get them in trouble. As a matter of fact, the reason I started this was for two reasons. One was to keep people from scams, because I have a section on my website that talks about all the controversial stuff. It'll keep you safe. The second reason is because people like Jamie Dimon was telling people that Bitcoin was a scam, don't mess with it, all the time while he was buying it. Listen.
He's buying Bitcoin and telling people it's a scam.
I guarantee you he buying it up by the boatloads. Oh, don't mess with that stuff. It's not good for you. Let me get all mine and then I'll let you in. So I want the website is there designed to help people. It's news articles. It's current news articles. Every day I update it. There's videos. There's podcasts. I highlight things for people to listen to. Tell them where events are. I want people paying attention, and I want you listening, reading, and watching, because if you're doing it, I guarantee you, and I'll know if you, I can tell if you are. Because if you are, I have a message in my text or I have a message in my email. Oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. People start talking to me about it. But if they don't talk to me, I'm like, you didn't read. You didn't read. I know you didn't read.
You got to read to learn, man. Reading is fundamental. It's just like having a good democracy. Voting is fundamental.
Right, that's right.
Vote. So this has really been good, because I think we've had a few people on talk about a number of different things that have, we're, and Paul, this is our third show, right, Aaron? It's only our third broadcast, our third live stream. Thank you very much. And I think we're getting a little better now that Aaron doesn't let me touch the controls anymore. It looks a little more coherent. But Paul, I know you're getting ready to leave, and I know you just said that you're going to be in Virginia for one more day, and you're having some sort of event, and I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about your event that you're having. So if folks want to come out and meet you or come to your event, they can.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to, tomorrow night, we'll be at Uncle Julio's in Loudon. It's out in Loudoun County. Look it up, Uncle Julio's, Loudoun County, from 5 until. I make sure I spread the time out. I know everybody can't come out exactly at 5, so I'm going to be there from 5 until, just to talk to people about this. Hey, have a couple of snacks and a couple of drinks, whatever. But the reason is just to get folks together, let them understand what this is a little more. And I'll leave you with one really important equation. Take this and remember this, no matter what you do. 21 million fixed supply. That's how many Bitcoin there'll ever be. They can't change that number. It'll never change. This is what makes it different in gold. 21 million fixed supply plus massive demand. And we're seeing massive demand come from family offices, billionaires. And if you think about it, there are 41 million millionaires in the world. Not every millionaire can have one Bitcoin. It equals number goes up. That's just the way it is. 21 million, massive demand, number goes up. You do the math.
Well, we've certainly learned a little something about cryptocurrencies, the underlying technology, which is blockchain, where it comes from, why small businesses may want to take a look at it, take a deeper dive for themselves. Paul, you're a small business person yourself and a Democrat. We appreciate you coming on board to tell our family here, Democratic family and friends, about this technology and also about the investment so they can at least look at it. And we're ready to come up on our final hour, on our final minutes. It's just a couple of minutes before we close out. So I'm going to kind of throw the ball your way. Is there anything we haven't asked you, Paul, that in the last couple of minutes here that you might want to still regale us with about cryptocurrencies? So I'm going to keep giving the mic back to you.
Sure. Hey, listen, here's another thing too. So I know the person listening might be like, man, he's talking about all this money, 500 million. I ain't got no $500 million to be put nowhere, right?
I'm
Folks,
not Jamie Dimon.
Exactly. I'm not Jamie Dimon, right? This is not for wealthy people. This is for everybody, no matter what money you got. Listen, if you're saving any kind of money, you can use the Cash App. And I know a lot of folks know what the Cash App is. Go to Cash App. There's a little button on there. Buy Bitcoin. You can say buy $5 worth of Bitcoin every week if you want to, and it'll do it automatically. You set it and forget it. But again, not financial advice. You need to do your homework. Just know that there's opportunities for everybody. This is not for one particular class. Everybody.
And one of the people on our comments I'm looking at on our stream had mentioned that Amazon has started accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment.
Not so fast. Amazon mentioned something about they might be looking into it, and then they came out and sort of recanted. But I'm going to tell you, Amazon bought 3 different websites back about, I think it was 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. Amazon cryptocurrency, Amazon Ethereum, and Amazon, there was another one. But they own 3 different domains. They're cooking up something. We just don't know what yet. They're coming in.
I'm just going to hold on to a little bit of Amazon stock I got since Jeff Bezos, he didn't invite me to go to the moon. They didn't go to the moon. They went in a low Earth orbit, but I'd have been okay with that if I'd have got to go for free.
That's right. He didn't invite me either, man. He didn't invite me.
$26 million, but hey, but we're working on getting that 26 million. But I'm not going to pay to go to the moon with it. I'm going to invest it.
There you go. Exactly.
I just want to thank you, folks, as we wrap up. Remember our call to action. Please call your congressman. Please call your congresswomen. And make sure that you're out there, you're registered to vote for the upcoming Virginia elections, and that you also are out there supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the For the People Voting Rights Act. We need to have that. So coming up on our last hour, our last couple of minutes here, we like to come in we like to leave the same way we came in, and we're just going to start it now. Oh, you can hear it. Listen, come back with us next week as we're at the VADSBC Live. Looking forward to seeing you. Folks, thank you for being here with us as we've had a wonderful evening with you again. We'll be back next Wednesday on Woke Wednesday. Thank you. Goodbye. Had to cut it. I don't want to get sued. Okay.